Good evening. Yes, good evening. It is the end. Well, we're actually on day 3 now, technically, based on the schedule, but it is the end of Microsoft Ignite. And this is Jay, and I have Craig as usual. And we're really excited to have with us one of our very good friends, Sharon Weaver, out of not St. Louis, but Kansas City, because I don't remember the names of cities. Sharon, how are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Well, I'm good. I can't speak for Craig.
Yeah, I'm good. Nice to see you. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for dropping in on our podcast and talking to us about Microsoft Ignite. We were talking a little bit before we recorded. You do a lot in the community for SharePoint, or started out in SharePoint. So me and you have actually known each other for several years now, going back for quite a few SharePoint Saturdays that I organize in Chicago, and I know that you do things out in Kansas City. Howard, you want to talk a little bit about what you do there and give us your background?
Yeah, so I've been around SharePoint for probably close to 15 years now, working with pretty much every version of SharePoint. And so early on, I went to some of the conferences and I got handed the reins for SharePoint Saturday Kansas City. I think this would have been, we did not do one last year because of COVID, but it would have been our 7th year.
Jay, they have barbecue.
And we have barbecue.
Yes, they do have barbecue.
So when we get back to it, guys, like we do barbecue for the speaker dinner. We do barbecue for the actual day of lunch. It's amazing. We do pit barbecue too, not just regular barbecue, pit barbecue. But yeah, so I've been running SharePoint Saturday Kansas City for, as of last year, 7 years. And during that time, I've participated in a lot of community user groups. And a couple of years ago, as the switch from kind of SharePoint on-prem to M365 came in, I really saw the need for more of a Office 365 type-based user group. So for the last couple of years, I've been running the Kansas City Office 365 user group. Luckily, we have a very highly distributed geographical area. So, I mean, it's about an hour if you go end to end across the entire city. And so we had already started doing virtual events just to kind of supplement the idea that if people couldn't make it into the actual event, they could still participate. That's cool. So it was really neat because when COVID hit, we were already doing virtual, and my venue actually said, you guys can't come in because of COVID. And I was like, you know what? It's really not that big of a deal because we were already doing virtual anyway. So we just wanted a venue. And from that day on, we haven't missed a beat. You know, we've met every single month since then. We have a really nice attendance, probably, 25 to 40 people on an average month, which is pretty great for a user group. And we're rebranding it this year to the M365 user group.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's kind of what I do locally.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we have we hit 12 to 20 on average for we do twice monthly here at the Nova 365 user group. So 25 people at a regular is really, that's an awesome accomplishment. Cool.
And then on top of that, I am also, I'm a big fan of nonprofits and supporting nonprofits locally. And with COVID, I kind of got a little trapped at home like everybody else. And so I'm actually volunteering on the local KCIIBA board and also on a local group called Digital Women in Kansas City. So I'm on the board for both of those, basically helping business analysts and women who work in the digital space and field. So I do a little bit beyond the Microsoft world right now too.
Cool.
That's awesome.
So this is a little outside of what the Microsoft space, but you were speaking at a Woman in Tech conference or something coming up the next couple of days. Would you like to pitch that? Or am I wrong?
Oh, I did actually.
Oh.
I've keynoted some Women in Tech stuff. Monday, so Monday the 8th, the Kansas City Office 365 user group will be meeting as normally scheduled. In addition, I'm actually going to be presenting at the Minnesota Office 365 user group, just as a weird coinky-dink. So mine will be running, but I will also be presenting at a different one as well on Monday.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool.
Sorry, I messed that up, but I thought I saw that. Yeah, cool.
I said that right. The Minneapolis.
Yeah, Minneapolis. I saw that you were going to speak on the 8th. I thought it was Women in Tech for some reason. I don't know why. I'm stalking you on Twitter to see what you're doing. So.
Yeah, just check me out on Twitter. You'll figure it out.
And on top of that, you recently got named as an RD, right? A regional director for Microsoft, kind of a community. I don't know exactly what that is. I'm more familiar with the MVP. So if you could explain what that is and how you got that, or talk about that, that'd be awesome.
It's a super secret society. No.
And the handshake that goes with it. That would be awesome.
There's a handshake that goes with it. I got accepted into the regional director program in 2020. Oddly enough, just in time for COVID to ground us all. But the regional director program is a little different from the MVP program. We still do interact with a lot of the MVP stuff. But basically our job is to act as an advisory board for the product teams and for the executives, to basically be a liaison between executives in business and the groups that are in Microsoft. And so while the MVPs are a little bit more focused on the actual technology of a specific product or a specific area, our job is to really kind of be Microsoft agnostic and kind of see everything at an enterprise level, Microsoft and non-Microsoft, and meet with executives and boards and things like that in the real world, in the business world, to be able to then take that feedback back to Microsoft at an enterprise level, not just a product level, and be like, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and really help them to make good decisions.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And because I know you are a consultant, like you have the consultant mindset. You aren't a product person. You are technologist, but you go in and really, when you talk with people, you are focused on what is your problem and trying to help them construct that. And so I think that actually fits really well with what you're describing from the RD program. So that's really exciting from our perspective to have someone like you in that role, but also just to see what that role is. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Now, for Ignite, you had a fun job, I think. Tell us a little about what you were doing yesterday.
Yeah, so I actually responded to a volunteer call for people at the last minute. It's they call the tag board team, and basically what happens is as people post things on social media about Ignite, in this case in Twitter, every time anybody out there posted something with the hashtag of MS Ignite, it rolls up into a feed. Well, you can imagine how many things come in. And sometimes it's legit, and sometimes it's spam, and sometimes it's really, really cool and really worth noting. And so essentially they had a handful of volunteers that worked 24-hour shifts through the entire conference for all of Ignite. And our job was to watch the tweets that basically came in with that tag and then determine which ones maybe were not good tweets to come in and tweets that specifically should be featured. So some of the ones that were coming on the feed that was underneath the video was one of our things that we focused on. And whenever the presenters would comment on certain tweets that came in and then they would talk about them, our job was to feature those up onto the feature board.
That is cool. So I missed my opportunity to tweet during that block to get my stuff up on the big board.
Yes. Of course. We gotta if I had known, it would have been, hey Sharon, are you reading this?
Right. Now, my view of the 2 days was day one was big vision and big announcements, and day two seemed to be a little bit more rehashing stuff we might have heard recently, plus I would call them point announcements. Like, for example, in Power Platform, they talked about object level security for Power BI, or they talked about Excel Online having access to, I think it was Power BI pivot tables, which are both big announcements in and of themselves, but they're not like the big vision statements, right?
Agreed. Yeah, I think Tuesday was definitely more of kind of what does Microsoft have in store and where are they headed? Especially, the keynote, really kind of said it all and really kind of stated, here's what Microsoft is doing and here's where we're headed and here's what's important to us. And then I think Wednesday was definitely a lot more about the products themselves and specific features and specific applications and specific things that were going on within those applications.
And as a This Week in Teams podcast, a lot of the team stuff came on Tuesday too, right?
There was a lot of stuff that came out about all of the new Teams features, both, Teams integration, Teams features that are going to be native to Teams, and then also things like Viva that are going to plug directly into Teams.
Yeah, I noticed that was the big talk on day two, was the Microsoft Viva stuff. I think that's how the day basically kicked off, right? Was all about, and it wasn't it was funny because I was reading up some things and they're like the announcements of Viva. I'm like, no, Viva was announced last week, but it was really the details about those announcements. Connections, learning, topics, and insights. I'm really personally excited about the topic stuff. Excited to see what it's doing with syntax and how they're going to help knowledge management and records management, I hope. What out of Viva are you very excited about?
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think Connections is going to be fantastic because it's going to be able to allow us to pull stuff in from SharePoint in a way that we haven't been able to. I get asked for this all the time, and I'm like, it's coming.
Yes.
And the whole idea of, for somebody who's been in SharePoint for so long and also been a very early advocate for Teams, they both have a lot of value, and I think they both work really nicely together. But for them to have more integration and more native capabilities to talk to each other is going to be fantastic. I also have a background in knowledge management, and so the Viva Topics and Viva Learning is just, it's going to be great. And I actually sat in on a table talk for the Viva Learning where they talked about SCORM compliancy. And I know one of the things in people that I've worked with before, one of their big things is the LMS SCORM compliant, otherwise they can't have it. Well, right. The answer was yes, the roadmap is to ultimately make Viva Learning SCORM compliant, which is going to be huge for some of these companies that have already invested heavily in Microsoft 365 and Teams to just tack that on and not have to deal with a separate vendor.
Yep.
Yeah. It was nice at Insights too. So I've been playing with Workplace Analytics and see how that's coming, and that's one of the first things that they're rolling out, and one that it looks like they're tying their licensing in with the SharePoint Online license. If you have the E3 as the E5, then you get it included. Which I know a lot of the complaints that I hear about, I hear from customers is, why is everything an add-on, right? So it's nice that they're starting to bundle some of the prices and things together.
Yeah, in fact, you can already download. So for those of you guys that are out there listening, you can already download the Viva Insights app in Teams, and you can already download the Power BI app in Teams. Those should already be in your tenant, and the Viva Connections is included in your Office 365 license, and that's supposed to be coming by the end of this month.
That's
So as Jay has talked about, and you were talking about earlier, you do a lot of consulting business, give them the business direction. What did you think was the most important kind of things coming out that you're going to take to your customers to tell them about?
Oh, for sure. Viva is a big one, just because it provides so much value to SharePoint, people who have put a lot of investment in SharePoint and Teams. Power BI has a lot of really neat stuff that's coming that I have several clients that are working with that. And I think the Power BI integration with Teams is just phenomenal, and it's going to take it to a whole nother level. For the way that people work with Power BI now, not having to go out and click on separate things, but to be able to see everything in one place and not have to go look for it. It's going to be huge. I don't know why it is, but over the last 6 months to a year, I've spent a lot of time working on data connections. We've got the cloud, and now everybody wants to connect all their on-prem data to the cloud, and all of a sudden you have to kind of have a different discussion. And I know that there's a lot of really great stuff coming in the Azure app space for app integration and key management, and those data connections are hopefully, according to everything I saw, going to start being a lot easier to create and manage and use across all of the entire Microsoft ecosystem in the cloud.
Now that's cool. Jay was making fun of me earlier today because I posted something about needing data servers and stuff like that. So that I could practice.
All day long, guys, all day long.
So
everything's in the cloud, Craig. You don't need on-prem servers
in the
anymore.
Cloud, but I need my own servers so I can connect on them at home. So
I especially love it when somebody says, "Oh, just connect to the API," and I'm like, "Is it on-prem?" They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "This is the cloud. It doesn't work like that." And they're like, "Oh, you're right."
Yeah. We have a lot of conversations about with customers who are moving to the cloud, supporting the U.S. government, especially the DoD. They're still early in those stages. And it's like, okay, well, I can do this. I'm like, no, there's no API for us to watch. The triggers don't work like that. Like it's on-prem, we could capture it in memory before it hit your hard drive, and it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, it just doesn't work that way anymore. I definitely am getting really familiar with the data gateway, though.
Yeah, that's scary. That's a deep.
Yeah, that was what I was reading up on when I did it. So maybe I'll be reaching out to you for data gateway. I was telling Jay that's like a talk that I think is upcoming is how to use the data gateway. So if you want to partner on one, I have found recently. So we all do like public speaking, and me and Jay have done a couple together, and Ralph Rivas, who also helps us do. I'm sorry, helps me run my Power Apps user group, have done a conversation, did a talk on ALM, and I'm finding it's much easier to do with somebody else than it is to one person. So,
especially in the virtual world, like having a co-presenter kind of gives you someone else to bounce off of, since virtual attendees don't you don't have their facial expressions. And they don't hoot and holler at you when you make, when your demo goes or anything. So it's having that second person's a lot nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
It is. I've gotten very good at saying, can you give me a thumbs up if you see anything? Can you give me a hands down if you're nothing? So I need more emoticons and things like that, because everybody
interaction is great.
Everybody talks about how all the video and stuff, but still in the meetings when things like that, everybody's on mute and everybody's got their camera off. So
all right, well, let's talk about Mesh then. If we're gonna transition to conversations, we'll jump back to day one for a little bit.
Sorry.
I know that there were a lot of tech people who were not thrilled with the Mesh keynotes.
I watched those comments.
But if you consider it a vision conversation,
yes,
that was amazing.
I don't know if you guys saw, but I actually posted at the very beginning of it. I said, I have been waiting my whole life for this moment. Okay. I am a nerd through and through.
Sure.
I have VR. We have multiple VR headsets in our house. I'm very big into mixed reality. I've been working in spaces for a while now. I'm really excited about where Mesh is headed. It's going to really provide us a whole nother level of things that I don't even know that people really even understand what it's going to give us. Right. But if you think of Star Trek and the holodeck and all of the things that can provide in terms of, medical surgeries to engineering to, vacationing to, taking your kids on a field trip. I mean, wouldn't it be great to take your kids on a field trip to the Louvre without having to leave their classrooms, right? I mean, I understand that we don't want to live in this world where we're connected to technology 24/7. However, I believe that the technology that Mesh is going to provide us is going to be a game changer in how we see our world, not just at an entertainment level, but also at a day-to-day level.
Yeah. Honestly, the thing that hit me most was when they did the live demo with the camera that captured what you see. And while I wasn't in love with the second person's avatar, just the concept of they had a live meeting in a 3D world with two people in completely different spaces, and you could see the eyes moving and you could see the individual fingers, and it was like being there. I want one. I've never wanted a virtual headset before. It's never been enough for me.
Well, once you get one, come hang out with me. We can go do some mini golf or hang out at the club or whatever you want to do. It's gotten me through the last year and a half. I have sat on a boat in the middle of the ocean for an hour in my VR, and it was amazing.
Sweet. Yeah, flight simulator and stuff like that. Yeah.
Flight simulator. Oh yeah, my husband loves jumping out of airplanes in VR.
So yeah, it may look a little interesting at times, like you're saying, but if you remember what video games looked like back in the day, right, versus what they are now, it can only get better. And what I am worried about is that holodeck experience. I don't know that I'm worried about it, but where it is scary, that it's like Sharon is 3D scarily, that you can't tell the difference in the fake, what do they call those? The fake
deep fakes.
Yeah, deep fakes and things like that. Yes. So that will become interesting. But as a whole, I think the people
problems over and over. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to solve them.
Yeah. Yep. But I think from the comments of the people that I just that didn't like it or can't, I like it. Well, I can't see this being used for every day. It's an interesting comment because I like Sharon said, I can picture use cases almost in everyday life where that you just kind of have to have the vision for it, right? Yeah, it's not going to be immediate, but give it 5 years or so, it'll be pretty cool.
It's going to change the world.
I have no problem imagining this conversation with headsets on, and we can actually see each other in a form of 3 dimension. I would do it in a heartbeat. I think it would be a much more connected way to be with people.
We should totally set a goal for that, to at some point when everything's ready for the three of us to do another cast sitting at a table.
Pinky swear.
In Microsoft Mesh. I'm in, baby. I'm in.
There we go. In Disney World, though.
Virtual or real Disney World? That's the real question. Like,
we could do both.
I think we dropped like 35 minutes before we even hit the record button just talking about Disney.
Well, it's funny because I was going to say we were just talking about Disney, and one of the things that makes Disney is their vision, right? They're the fact to really see beyond what people have now and what they're going to want. And I think Microsoft has done a fantastic job over the years of providing productivity tools, okay? Sure. Providing application tools. This is the first time that I know of since Bill Gates said everybody should have a PC in their home, okay? Yep. This is the first time in a long time that I have seen them really cast a vision that says, here's where life is headed and we want to be a part of it.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And I think it was, look, I think there were some expectations mismanaged walking into this event. I was talking to another RD who said all the technical people who think of Ignite as a technical conference are gonna be, and okay, I get that. They're gonna be disappointed. But you're right. Like, the vision Microsoft sets was we are not a SharePoint company. We are not an Office 365 company. This is the vision we see for the world. Come with us and look at all these amazing tools that are going to help support it. And I do think they set that. So
yeah, this is a technology company. And hey, by the way, let me remind you of that.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting because it's very easy for, I guess, in our world to get pigeonholed or get that narrow mind of thinking, I just want to know what business users are going to use it with it, and kind of forget that there's that whole Azure thing going on in the cloud and data and machine learning and cognitive services that we're doing stuff with. And to look at the commercial, I mean, I don't know if you saw the last two announced, I'm sure you guys saw this, but Microsoft, I'm going to say we, signed some pretty huge deals with Volkswagen and GM to basically create an onboard experience in their cars. And, there's, and in the manufacturing ones, the commercials that they actually showed at Ignite with the people walking around with the HoloLens and being able to see what they're doing right in the person, and imagine that, as Sharon said, if a doctor has questions, can they find it while they're performing surgery or something like that? So, I think the sky's the limit.
So really quick, you're seeing me do this because yesterday when we recorded and I stuttered for like 12 seconds trying to think of a phrase, it was cognitive services. So thank you. Like, that's, I just like the stuff going on in that background is huge. And if you're a SharePoint developer, you might not be thinking of that, but it's changing the game. So I love the reminder of that change coming. Then
I've already started. So I don't know if you know this. I've already done a few workshops and I do a few presentations on SharePoint syntax. And so, SharePoint syntax is kind of the mind behind a lot of it's kind of the engine. If you think of it, it's like the engine behind all of this, with machine learning and the AI basically taking everything in and kind of sorting it and putting it in the right place. And with so much information and so much content that people need to manage nowadays, with the digital content just blowing up and so much being in there, at some point, humans can't process that much information that quickly, especially accurately. So having the machine learning and the AI to help us with that is just going to take us to a whole nother level as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think I will be interested to look back at this particular Ignite 2 or 3 years from now and to see, because I think we're going to have a total shift. Over the last 6 to 12 months, we've seen a shift at Microsoft to provide purpose-driven solutions, actual business solutions, not just the technology like SharePoint lists, but the ability for regular people to deal with it, like Microsoft lists and and Teams as that front end. So I think that this is really that pivot point for where things are going to go with the platform in the future. And I'm so glad that we got to talk about that, because I am so excited
about it. And I'm glad we talked about it too. I think it's huge, and I think it's I agree. It's pivotal. I believe it's the beginning of an era. Like, I think, the whole world is about to just kind of go to a whole nother level. And with all the digital transformation, I think people are ready to start accepting it and be open to it. The timing is impeccable. I'm really excited as well.
What's interesting is I think that you just hit it a little right when you said digital transformation.
Yeah.
Would we be ready for it now without the pandemic? Because, there was the digital transformation, working from home was a huge culture shift, and business said that couldn't happen.
Yeah.
And you basically took all the knowledge workers across the world and said, bam, we're changing how you're doing it, how you're working.
And guess what? It works.
It
worked. They adapted it, and some people are thriving. Some people, there's always going to be people who struggle and want to go back to the office and do things the way that they always do. But I think it has opened the mind for a lot of people as, if I can do this, what else can I do?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I believe COVID is probably the biggest digital transformation change agent we've ever seen. I have been having discussions with people for many years about the idea that it's 100% to be location independent as a knowledge worker, that there's no reason that, basically if an employee isn't a good employee, they're going to get their stuff done no matter where they're at. In fact, giving them that flexibility makes them probably more productive. And I think this last year, not only have we been able to do it, but I think we've proven, if you look at every statistic and every research study, productivity is off the charts.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. People are happy, they get their time at home, and then they tend to work longer. I don't necessarily want to do it, but a lot of times I'll check my email before I have my morning coffee just to see if there's anything important. And then if I've got some free time at 9 o'clock at night before I go to bed, I may take care of something so I don't have to worry about it the next day.
And I think there are people who still kind of want to go back into the office to see other people, or maybe their work from home conditions are not ideal. I still think there's value in having a physical location or physical space for some people, but I think you're going to find that a very large percentage of those people are not going to have any interest in going back, that they're going to want to keep doing this.
Or it's going to be the 2 or 3 times a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've been very lucky in my career. So I've been in IT for 20 plus years, and I've never been at a job that required me there. When I worked retail or restaurant, yes, but that required me there from this time to this time. And it's been lucky. But I think this showed that having more flexible working hours does give you a lot more freedom in being able to accomplish your job. Now,
absolutely.
I get it. Like help desks, you have to have help desks manned. You have to have, service desks and phone lines manned. And you have to have, like in the intelligence community, you're going to have 24/7 stuff going on. But just generally speaking, that idea that you have to be in the office from 9 to 5, or 8:30 to 5:30, and you get a 45
sitting at your desk,
lunch, right?
In your chair.
Yeah. So
for project-based work, right?
Yeah. Now, I am very excited to see what the team rooms look like when we go back to the office and the technology supporting that. Like, I didn't think I would get excited about hardware announcements at Ignite this year, but the smart, was it called the smart or intelligent speakers? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I think so.
Being able to follow voices based on the speaker hardware. I'm like, are you kidding me? So there's some really cool stuff coming from that side also, that it's just like, okay, I like working from home. I like my office. I don't mind that there's a mattress in a plastic bag right next to me because I have all the freedom of being at home. But I want to go into the office and see what this is like. Like, I want to play with the smart boards and the intelligent speaker design, and I want to see what that hybrid environment is like. So
and that's the thing that's going to get closest to the holodeck.
Yeah.
Well, and more importantly than that, you think about when we're having meetings and you want to invite certain people, and whether their schedule doesn't allow it or a travel doesn't allow it or it's too expensive or whatever, we can now have people from around the world sitting in the same conference room. Go back to that mesh concept, mixed reality. People are like, well, I don't see how this impacts me. It absolutely impacts you.
So
if
much.
Your company is not spending thousands of dollars for an international business flight to have somebody come into a meeting, to answer a question, and they can just pop in mixed reality to sit in on the meeting. How much does that really change, how our businesses are going to function and what the options are? It blows my mind just thinking about being able to have people virtually sitting in the same room with physical people and really feeling like they're actually there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think so. There is an argument of it's too cost prohibitive, and it has been But I think we are seeing hardware prices come down because
Absolutely.
I mean, I think it's becoming realistic. Not for everybody, but it's becoming realistic for larger groups of people, for the masses. And when that happens, it's going to become cheap enough for everybody. I remember when this was not cost appropriate for everybody.
Right.
And now, like, not only, I mean, yeah, they're still expensive, but they're sold and designed in such a way that everybody does have one in many places.
Well,
so
yeah. When you're talking about what Sharon was saying, though, I mean, the cost of a flight is $200 to $300 for a short flight. Hotel night, $100 a night. You do that with a few people, then you've got a few $1,000s. It doesn't take, how quick can you get to 100,000?
Well, that's just it. So I'm a Six Sigma black belt, and one of my things that I used to do was literally calculate those types of scenarios, right? They're like, okay, here's our options. What's going to make the most sense? And when I look at this from a Six Sigma perspective, you can simply take, if I can have people in the room in mixed reality, and I'm going to spend X amount of money to set up this system to be able to have it versus 5 years worth of flights, hotel, food, people maybe not making it, whatever, like all the risk that's associated with it. It's a no-brainer for a company to invest in a mixed reality Teams room over having to spend all that money. And that doesn't mean that they can't still have people come in person, but if they even want to cut it in half, they can still make money by switching to something like that. So I think even at the enterprise level, that's where it starts. And then, like you were saying, at a consumer level, I mean, webcams have come down so far, and speakers have come down so far, and you're absolutely right. I think hardware has become so affordable for the average, middle class person. And I think that as that continues to progress, you're going to start see people in other countries. You see things like Starlink, which is going to completely change the game for people in areas like Australia and Southern Africa and Asia that maybe didn't have access to reliable internet before. Maybe I want to live in Wyoming and I can't have accessible internet to be able to work remotely, but now I can do Starlink, right? The technology is just changing in a way that it's going to make us be able to do a lot of these things in a way we never could before.
And with the translation device too, we don't even have to worry about if they speak the right languages.
Oh my gosh. I've
been playing with that for a while now. And I've got a couple different versions from different makers on my phone. And it's so great to be able to just pop my headphones in and listen to what somebody's saying in a different language and have it automatically be changed. It's so exciting.
I remember the movies of the 80s and 90s where, they had a person who had to translate it. And then you had people around the room with their earphones listening to the live person. And now we've got technology that, look, I'm not advocating for taking people's jobs. I'm advocating for making the world more accessible.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Not everyone can hire someone to translate every language that they need to hear, but the technology is getting there to open this up, and it's
kind of like a Star Trek communicator, right?
Right? Yes. Which no.
Just saying.
Just saying.
I almost
we're all dressed up like Star Trek
Discovery, and that's a different.
Yeah, Jay and I can have an offline conversation about that. I have like every single one, every single movie, every single episode.
No, I've seen them all. I'm just saying.
I'm in.
I'm saying we get all dressed up like Star Wars and go to Orlando and.
Yes, also fun.
Yeah, baby.
Okay. All right, so we're pushing the boundary of what people are willing to listen to from a time perspective. I think this has been
fun.
I wish we had recorded the first hour, because this has been such a fun conversation this evening. But to end it on this excitement about technology and really be able to wrap, I think the goal of this Ignite, which was not to tell you about the technological advances of Teams and lists, and it was to really set a tone for the coming years with Microsoft and the related technologies. And I'm really excited that we got to wrap this evening, this very fun 90 minutes talking about Disney and all this crazy stuff. I'm excited that we get to wrap that with this great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to kick it at the end, what was your favorite tweet that you saw?
My favorite tweet. Oh, I mean, I promoted a lot of them up. I think if we're talking, we're going to stick on the mixed reality thing. I saw multiple tweets come up where they basically were showing the people at the table in the Star Wars photo, where basically it was like, hey, look, we're now doing exactly what they were doing in the Star Wars movie. And I probably saw that photo and those comments very similar come through for multiple tweets. And I think that out of all of them, that it's back to that vision of where are we headed. And it's like, we've been watching this since we were kids, and look at where we're going, and now it's going to be real. Yes. And so to see everybody really, really get that excitement and really be able to share that out, I think that was probably some of my favorites.
That's a beautiful wrap. Thank you. Sharon, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Sharon E. Weaver. You can find my blog at sharoneweaver.com. Or if you're interested in somebody helping you out with any of your M365 needs, just go to www.smarter-consulting.com.
And you're based out of Kansas City, but that doesn't mean that you can just work in Kansas City, right?
Oh, no. We have clients all over the United States. We don't have anybody international yet, but we do have clients across the entire United States.
Awesome. Right. So if anybody's looking, there's Sharon. Jay, where can people find you?
Right here. Right. Actually, I love telling people my blog is j.leask.com. So there you go. It's a hard one to remember. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to doing this again with you soon.
Absolutely.